I'm Christina with The Turned Leg, and I've been a booth owner since 2015. And over the years, I've learned a lot. And now I am a coach for booth owners. And I have a private group on Facebook where we meet every week and we talk about tips and tricks for your booth. Recently, we had a discussion within the group, and I just thought it was so good. And so many people in the group said, like, this is exactly what I need, that I thought I would share with you what we talked about. And for anyone else that's a booth owner, I hope it can help you too. In the group, we talked about inventory. And if you think about your booth, inventory, whether you're a craft booth or a vintage booth, inventory is the key to your success. But I also think it is one of the biggest issues that dealers struggle with. Too much, not enough, organization, pricing, so many questions with inventory. As a booth owner, the most important thing is having the right inventory. And it doesn't mean like the right inventory that everyone else thinks is popular. The pictures that you're finding on Pinterest are not necessarily the things you need to have in your booth. I think it is so important, and this is something especially new booth owners struggle with, and even people who have had a booth for a while, is having inventory that is you and reflects you. If you're buying it, it needs to be your style. It needs to be something you like. You shouldn't just be necessarily putting it in your booth because you got it for a great price. I've done that a few times. I'm really not too crazy about children's stuff. And over the year, I have just decided, you know what? I'm gonna pass on it. I don't like to have those items in my booth. When I see them in my booth, they never really mesh or fit in very well because it's not my style, and they cause me a lot of stress. So the first thing you really need to figure out is, what do you like? And maybe you want to go back on Pinterest if you're not sure and just start pinning things that you like and find your style. What would you hope your dream booth would be? Now, I know it's all based on availability and what items you're going to find, but you really have to have some ideas. Well, like for me, for instance, I like salvage. I also like glamour, and I love like big gaudy gold picture frames. I like mid-century modern. I also like old wood. I like to refinish wood. I like painted furniture. It's okay to have a few different tastes and styles within your booth, because the thing that's going to hold them all together is you. And the same can be true for your own home. As long as it's all stuff you love, you'll be surprised, but it's all going to mesh together. Another way to determine if you have the right inventory is what is selling. So you need to do a little research. Look back on your statements from your booth. What are the items that are selling? Books, maybe books are big sellers. You need to make sure you're constantly having those in your booth at all times, because those are your hot seller. Mid-century modern is hot. Make sure you are scouting out those pieces and keeping them stocked, because people are going to count on your booth to have those items. The other way to determine the right inventory might be in terms of display. Now, I do this a lot, and sometimes it just kind of happens when I'm out shopping. I look down in my cart and I'm like, wow, that would make a really cool 4th of July display. Or, oh my goodness, I could do like a travel theme in my booth. Sometimes things just happen. I'm picking what I like, and depending on where you're shopping or getting the items, you're just gonna find things that are gonna inspire your display. But if you're really setting out like, I wanna do a red, white, and blue display for 4th of July or for summer, then those are the things you should be hunting for. But make sure they're things you like. Don't forget your customers. They are also key, not only in what they buy, but in what they're asking for. Are they asking for specific items on your social media page? Do you hear from the front desk at the antique mall that customers are really looking for these things? Maybe they're things you never thought about. It's not a bad idea to think about what customers are wanting, as long as it goes with your style. And bringing it back to the customers. If you're not sure what your customers want, if you're like, well, I have no clue, then as I mentioned, you can talk to the people at the front desk, the cashiers, and the people that run the front desk of the antique mall Always know what the customers are looking for and what they're buying. Make friends with them, have conversations. It will only help you in your booth. Also, if you don't have a social media page for your booth, maybe you might want to consider it, because not only will it be promoting your space, getting customers in the door, finding people that love your style, but it'll give you really important information on what the customers want. If you need more information about growing your social media, you can click on this link. It is so important for you to sell what makes your heart happy in your booth. I know it sounds kind of cheesy. I once heard somebody say, like, only buy the things that you're okay if you get stuck with them. I know as a booth owner, sometimes there's deals you can't pass up, or maybe another booth owner's going out of business and they're giving you a great price, or maybe even stuff is free. But it is so important to think about your style in your booth and the message you're sending to your customers. If they're relying on your booth to find specific items, if you are known for certain things and that's why they're coming, and then they get to your booth and they're like, what is this? You might lose shoppers, you might lose customers, and then you're gonna lose sale. So really important to stay true. And if you haven't looked at the inventory in your booth, maybe you should plan a little visit, walk around, see what you really like in your booth. If there's things that you're not crazy about, maybe weed them out. I bet your space is gonna feel so much better if you're staying true to your style. One really important point about inventory, and I know we've talked about this here before, is usually as a booth owner, you're in one of two places. Either you are a newbie and you are desperate for inventory. You are like, oh my gosh, where am I gonna get it? I don't have enough stuff, I have to find more. I'm not sure I can keep up with everything I'm selling in my booth. Or, probably more likely, you might be kind of drowning in it. I mean, you got the inventory. It's probably all over your house. It's probably in your basement. It's probably in your garage. It could even be on your kitchen table. And maybe you even are paying for storage. If this is you, I offered a special challenge in my business group because I have to admit, I am in the same boat too. I have a lot more inventory than I even realized. Even with my larger booth, sure, I could clear out a lot of items because my booth space is quite large. And if you haven't seen a video, I'll put a link here. My booth is big, but I still have overflow inventory. Now I know most of us probably have some seasonal items that we store. Not necessarily talking about those items. I'm talking about the death pile. This is the pile of things that maybe you're not totally crazy about. Maybe they need repairs. Maybe you had in your mind that once you found another item, you could create this great display with these items, but that never worked out. Maybe you just kind of packed things away in a tub and you have no idea what's in it. My challenge in my business group this last week was, you need to admit you have death piles. You need to take pictures of them. You need to go see what's there. I recently was looking for more items in my booth and I had an entire tub that was labeled clear glass. Now we all know, if you've been here a while, clear glass really doesn't sell. So I'm like, well, I don't want that because that's not gonna sell. When I opened up the box, I found out there was more than just clear glass. There was a whole bunch of really cool items that I didn't even know were in there. And you know what? I popped those in my booth. Some of them have actually sold, and I wouldn't have gotten that money if I would have left them in the box. So it is really important, and I'm encouraging all of you to go find those death piles, or some people call them timeout piles. Whatever they are, you need to go find them. You need to set some time aside, once a week, once a day, set a timer. You need to go and see what's in there, because you know what? The inventory you have at home that's not making you money, you're actually losing money. And you might be surprised. There might be some cool stuff. So my challenge to you is you need to see what you have in your inventory. Another thing we're doing in the business group, Besides just seeing what we got, we're taking pictures. We're sharing it in our community. We are showing off our piles, which it might be a little embarrassing to some people, but it is so nice to have a community where like, hey, we all got this. Look at my death pile. And we can relate. We're also noticing such amazing items that many of you have. Once again, this is profit. This is money that is just sitting there that you could have in your booth. So my challenge to you all is this. Find the piles. Maybe take the pictures. Then really important is think about how those piles are making you feel. I don't know about you, but I have a space. Well, I have a couple spaces. Garage, basement, where I have things kind of shoved and I want them out of sight and out of mind. Now I have those Rubbermaid tubs, like I said, but I honestly don't know what's in them. Sometimes those Rubbermaid containers give us the illusion of organization, but it's not really organized. It's just a whole bunch of stuff that's thrown in there. So think about how these piles are making you feel. They make me feel overwhelmed. I don't want to see them. I try to store my stuff out of sight, out of mind, so that I don't get stressed out. But what would it be like if you didn't have all those piles? Maybe you just had some seasonal items and that was it. This is the goal. So I want you, besides finding those piles and thinking about how they're making you feel, is I want you to actually attack those piles. And I want you to really go through them. Because as I discussed, some of these things, one, might not be your style. You might have just bought them because they were a good price or you got them for free and you kind of knew in your heart they really weren't your vibe in your booth. And that's why they're still there. You need to get rid of those. Whether you donate them or throw them out, whatever you need to do, but you need to do it right away. You don't need to make a pile and say, well, I'm gonna have a garage sale in like 4 weeks or a year or whatever. You need to take action on these items quickly. Get rid of the stuff that's not you. You also need to do something, and this is so hard, it's hard for me. I am constantly saving furniture, like my little furniture orphans, my sad little pieces that if only I could learn how to fix this thing, I could restore it. But let's seriously get real. How many hours in the day do you have? Not only that, but like, are you really going to be able to learn how to put together an entire table or rebuild a whole table? Is this reasonable in the time that you have? Being a booth owner is hard. We don't always need more projects. So if you have a project pile, you need to think really carefully about what's in that pile. And a lot of times, since I sell salvage, I can just salvage items. Usually the salvage from those projects can make me almost the same amount of money as if I were to fix it, or sometimes even more. Sometimes it'll really shock me that people, when they're buying salvage from my booth, I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I should just disassemble all the furniture because I'd make more money that way. Legs get a good price. Really cool architectural can get you a good price. So look at those project piles. If it's not feasible, if you don't have the time, if you really don't know how to do it, clear them out. It's gonna make you feel so much better to not be tripping over all of these items and beating yourself up with the whole thing like, oh my gosh, I really need to work on this and I need to learn how to do this. We just don't have time. So get real. Finally, and this is most important, when you find the treasures, which I can guarantee you in those piles, you're gonna go like, wow, look at this. I didn't know I had this. This would be, you need to price it and get it in. It's not making you any money sitting there. Another thing I think would be really fun, although I know we're all busy, but humor me, is tally up how much profit was just sitting in those piles. I mean, you don't have to figure out like, well, how much did I pay for it and all of that. Just what is the total cost you've had sitting in your basement or your garage that you can put in your booth to sell. I think you're going to be amazed. I'm going to do the same thing. And everyone in my business group has really been working hard. I am so proud of all of them. I wasn't really sure when I approached this with them. Sometimes when I give them jobs It's because I need to do the same thing, and I just assume we're kind of all alike. Inventory is hard, but in this challenge, they were totally on board, and they have been attacking the piles, cleaning things out, reporting back, and having the community has been so important. So I hope you're going to join our challenge. And if you want an update in a future video on how I'm doing with my death pile and my project pile and how much inventory I've found to put into my booth, comment down below. I think this is a really fun challenge. And in my group, we have extended the challenge because people are like, I love this. I really need to do this. I just need more time. So we're spending about 3 weeks on it. 3 weeks to find the piles, to attack the piles, to sort things out, to donate, to throw away, but to get it moved quickly, and also to price and get it into the booth. I really hope that this conversation today has been helpful for some of you, and that you're like, yeah, I totally need to do this. I promise you, just having the space, getting things organized is going to be worth it. If you want to join the challenge and you want to be a part of my booth owners Facebook business group, I'll put all the information down below. We would love to have you. I also want to quickly mention, because I said there's two kinds of people. So if you walk around your house and you're like, I don't have a death pile, I don't have a project pile, I'm desperate for inventory, I get worried every time something big sells because I have no idea what I'm going to replace it with, I encourage you to do one thing that is going to help you so much, and that is to really start networking. Have you been talking to other dealers at the mall? If not, if there's a common area, maybe a table or a place that you can sit and chat. I know we're all busy, and when I was a newbie, I kind of avoided that social area, but if you can hang out there a little bit, you're going to network. You're going to meet other dealers, you might get some tips and tricks, and you're going to get some help for finding good pieces. You can also just say, hey, I'm new at this. I'm really struggling with finding furniture pieces. Do you guys have any hints for me of where I can be looking? And you know what? Some of these dealers that are totally overwhelmed with inventory might be like, well, I'm trying to clear out a storage unit. The other thing I encourage you to do is to do new and maybe scary things. Have you ever gone to an auction? Have you ever gone to a flea market? Have you ever, if there's things you haven't done where you can find cool items and you're like, well, I'm kind of worried and I'm not sure what to do, grab a friend and just go do the scary things. It might just pay off. I recently was contacted and they had an entire storage unit full of furniture. I really haven't bought that much directly from people that contact me personally. You know what? I was like, I really need the stuff. I went and I got a ton of great pieces that I'm able to restore and find them new homes. So it paid off. I did the scary. I learned now how to do it. Now I have more things I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable doing. And my booth is only going to thrive from me doing these things and finding the good inventory. I hope this video has been helpful. Let me know down below. Let me know where you're at with inventory too. Are you not enough? Are you way too much? I'm just kind of curious. I also want to tell you, I do have a video coming up where I went to the most amazing flea market. So you want to stay tuned for that video. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and I hope that this video has motivated you and maybe you'll take part in the challenge too. So go find those death piles, go find those project piles, get yourself organized, get the items in your booth that can make you money. Now get out there to salvage, repurpose, and create.